Joining me now is News Corp columnist Angela Mollard and Gemma Tognini from GT Communications. Angela, Sunak lost the election, Starmer won, and of course he headed straight in to visit the King. How did it all plan out?
Oh, look, it works like clockwork every time there's a new Prime Minister. So, of course, Keir Starmer and his wife, Lady Victoria, turned up at the palace. They go to the first floor audience room, which is where the late Queen, the previous Queen, would also receive Prime Ministers. There's an event called the Kissing of Hands, which is not kissing of hands. It is just a handshake, but it's called the Kissing of Hands formally. And of course, as you mentioned, the King asked the new Prime Minister to form a government. But what's really interesting, of course, is that the King is new to this, whereas Queen Elizabeth, she presided over 15 Prime Ministers. So you think about her doing this 15 times. Some of them she would have liked, some of them she wouldn't have. And of course, we saw those photos of her with Prime Minister Liz Truss, one of the shortest Prime Ministers to have that position. And then, of course, just a few days before she died. So it is a very important occasion. The photos are important. And then, of course, there will be that weekly audience forthwith with Keir Starmer.
Now, the King has some pretty progressive views, Gemma. Do you think we'll see those play out more, or do you think he'll just keep going about his business his way?
I don't expect to see him doing anything particularly different. Like, yeah, he's been a progressive. I use that term lightly because, let's be honest, if all progressives were as mild as he is, we would be in a much better state societally. I think we'll see more of King Charles just being King Charles as he works out his reign. But I will make this one point that I find so cute, Caroline, that, you know, Sir Keir Starmer and his wife, Lady Victoria, he's a self-professed socialist, but not socialist enough that he turned down the knighthood. Isn't it always the way?
Always the way. Now, Angela, Meghan's sister Samantha, she lost at trial in those defamation proceedings she brought against her sister. We understand she's considering an appeal. What's the basis of the appeal?
That's right. So we thought that Meghan had won that case. It was a case of defamation where Samantha brought the case that that Meghan had sullied her name. The judge at that time, back in March, found that she hadn't. But now, let me read this to you because it makes absolutely no sense to me. Meghan has caused a cumulative interferences and remarks which have caused a cumulative defamation issue, which the court didn't consider at the time. What I take that to mean is the fact is that instead of thinking each of these incidences where Meghan is supposed to have defamed Samantha, is that the court didn't look at it as a whole. It's very unlikely to win, but I would imagine. But what's really interesting about the Markle family, and of course Samantha Markle took the name Markle back again after Meghan met Harry. She wasn't going by that name when the couple got together, is that they are both as dogged as each other at winning and not liking people and having to put them in their place. So I don't think Samantha will get anywhere with this, but I do think that there is obviously a shared family trait for having to go for each other.
And look, families are imperfect, Gemma, as we all well know, but from a brand point of view, don't you think there's something the Sussexes could do to try and tidy this up? I know it's not an easy thing when it comes to families, but this here just keeps bubbling up on occasion.
They should be Italian. I mean, they should just get into a turf war over property and not speak to each other for 10 years or something like that. Boycott christenings and Christmases and all that sort of stuff. Way more on brand for us. Look, I don't think we're going to ever see anything different from the Sussexes. This is the couple that are so tin-eared, so self-obsessed that, you know, they leave the royal family, they quit their jobs, but they keep the title and then whinge and moan about the fact that nobody's giving them security anymore. But, oh, God, we want to be on the, you know, we want to be self-determined and independent financially, but you can't stop paying us. I mean, they're an absolute dumpster fire when it comes to adulting. So I don't see anything different. They're not going to look at this and go, how are we going to be mature and adult and rebuild all the bridges that we've torched unceremoniously over the past number of years? That's just not going to happen.
And that brings me to my next one, Angela. And look, we spoke last week about Harry receiving that ESPY award. Now, the backlash has continued this week. Where's it got to?
Oh, now this has been shocking. So the mother of the person that the award, Pat Tilman, his mum Mary, has basically come out and said, I don't think that there's better people that should get this award, that Harry is too divisive, he's too controversial as a character, and she even mooted the fact that there were other people working in Veterans Affairs and that sort of thing who would be more worthy of this award. Now, that's a big thing to say because, of course, this award is in honour of this man who was a tremendous NFL sports person and then went in and fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. So for the mother of the person who's giving the award, that's not a great look for Harry. But the ESPN has come back out and said, he deserves it. This is 10 years of Invictus, and that's what we're celebrating for veterans. And they're right in that respect. This has been an incredibly successful initiative for veterans, and it was very heartfelt. It's actually the one thing, to speak to Gemma's point, that Harry has done that has some dignity and solidity and is on message with who he is and what he stands for. So I can kind of see, I would have thought by now he may have pulled out of that award and just said, look, I'm just going to leave it because there's been so much controversy. 50,000 signatures on a Change.org petition that he shouldn't get it. So, yeah, there's a lot of consternation about the fact that he's the recipient.
Controversy manages to find him everywhere. And Gemma, speaking of Charles being progressive, this next story I absolutely love. It totally made me giggle. Apparently he's dropped the royal patronage for pigeon racing. Have the activists got their way again?
I don't know. I would hate to think. I mean, look, I'm not a big fan of the pigeon racing and I'm not quite sure. I think you'd call it a niche market, right? I think you'd call it a niche market. I don't know how much animal welfare issues arise from pigeon racing, to be honest. Perhaps it's a dire issue. You'd think that he could have punted it down the line to a more junior role now that he's the king. Anyone's guess, Caroline, anyone's guess as to whether this was politics, diary or just disinterest.
Angela, do you have a view on that one?
Look, I think that it's, there's a lot of animal cruelty people around it and they will have made a case against it. Charles does not want to step. It's not. It doesn't align with his sustainability about conservation. Pigeon racing, it's on the cusp. Of course, they go and shoot things all the time. They shoot everything. But sending out these little pigeons, he's actually got a little pigeon house. They're called a loft or something like that at Sandringham. And there's some question about whether that's going to continue. But they're all tagged and they're all sent out. And, and whether or not these pigeons are actually happy is the big question, I think.
We need to survey the pigeons. We need to survey the pigeons.
Who knew that could cause such a furore, though? I love that. But Angela, William and Catherine, they've hired a new director for their foundation. What's the reason behind this move?
Oh, look, this is, their foundation looks after homelessness. It looks after Catherine's early childhood years. What's interesting about this, so the guy that's got it is Sir David John Lewis. He's a former boss of Tesco, one of the biggest supermarkets in the UK. What's interesting is not that they have appointed somebody, who the person is, but that they have appointed someone because everything was frozen when Catherine got sick. So they were going to appoint a new CEO to run their household. Now, this was going to be a different way of the royals running a household. So this person was going to be above private secretaries. But what happened is they had put that appointment on hold because it was very important that Catherine was involved in that decision-making. And, of course, she wasn't up for it. What this appointment suggests is that she is getting back into work behind the scenes, or at least she was sufficiently capable of making some decisions around this trusteeship. She would have been consulted on it, and that means that perhaps she is getting better and getting ready to come back to work.
Yeah, let's hope so. And Angela, just very quickly, the family's going up to Balmoral for the summer. Now, the castle, the estate at Balmoral is being open to the public for the first time this summer. What can the public expect to see?
Oh, I so want a ticket. £100, so about $200. You get to see 7 rooms. You have to put on little dusk slippers over your shoes. You can't take your phone in, no pictures. You get to see the family dining room. You get to see all those stag heads, as I was mentioning, on the wall. They shoot things. The provenance of each stag, where it was shot, where it was caught, that's all on the wall. You also get to see the desk that King Charles works at. I don't imagine he'll be leaving his papers on it. It looks over the sunken garden. You also get to look around the gardens. There's a new thistle maze. I don't know why you would make a maze with thistle plants, but apparently he has. But even better, you can pay £50 extra, $100 thereabouts, and you can get afternoon tea served on china that Queen Victoria brought to the to Balmoral, which of course was the castle that she gifted to her beloved husband Albert. So honestly, for royal tragics like me, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure about the stags and the sustainability thing, but anyway, we'll just leave that to one side. And lastly, Gemma, I've only got about 30 seconds left, but William is planning to appear in an ITV documentary about homelessness. How do you think he strikes the right balance on that issue?
I think he's done it really well so far, and he will continue to do it really well. He radiates his mother's empathy. I mean, and the alternative is that he does and says nothing on this issue. And that's not tenable at all. So I think that they've done a great job so far on this issue, carrying it, highlighting it, all of those things that matter. You know, I just don't have it. I just don't see that going badly for them at all.
Fabs. Angela Mollard, Gemma Tognini, thank you so much for joining us.